You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from
Vera.
an inmate at Anson Correctional Center. This call will be monitored and recorded. For customer assistance, collection, or complaint procedures, or to block future calls, dial 1-866-230-7761. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello, how you
Hello?
doing today? Hello.
I'm good. Is this Vernon?
Yes, it is. This is Vito. How you doing? How's everything?
I'm okay. A little nervous.
Nah, no need to be nervous. Welcome to my show, Vibing with Don Vito show. I heard a lot about you, so I want to get the opportunity to interview you.
Okay.
And let you tell your
I'm
side
looking
of the
forward
story
to
and things that happen with you,
Okay.
All right, so can you tell everybody what your name is and where you're from?
My name is Vera Lee, and I'm from Fayetteville.
Okay, that's in North Carolina also, correct?
Correct, it is.
So, Vera Lee, how was life growing up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, as a young girl?
Well, my home life was a little crazy. My mother was a pretty bad alcoholic, and my dad could be physically abusive a lot. And early in my life, I went through a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of stuff going on like that. So I went through a lot of changes behind that.
How old were you when those things were happening?
My earliest memories were around 5 years old or so, but it really kind of hit the roof when I was about 12. I ended up in a mental hospital for a little while, so that was kind of traumatizing.
Okay, and who was doing the abusing?
Mostly different family members. On both sides of my family. There were a few at my church. People tend to look at my church sometimes that I went to as kind of almost borderline cult. And everything with my crime tended to revolve around my church. So I went through a lot of things with my church, but mostly family members.
So do you really have anybody to turn to or to run to when these things were happening? Sounds like.
I got more support from people through my schools than anything. My family, no. With my family, it was more like cover up everything. It wasn't really try to bring anything to the light or do anything about anything. So I kind of gave up on that after the first time something happened. So really, until I got in junior high school and the counselors there got involved, that was when things started happening.
So what family members were sexually abusing you?
Mostly cousins, some cousins and some distant relatives. My grandpa was the first person that I ever remember doing it, but my therapist and I think that things happened way before then. But it took me a lot of years in therapy to realize that really my co-defendant was one of my abusers too, because when I got with him, I was 12 years old and he was 27. So I didn't want to accept that really he was a child molester too, but I guess you could call him that.
Yeah, that's called statutory rape.
Right. But you couldn't tell me that at the time because right. That's correct, but I just saw being with him and that was it.
Did your family know that you were with him?
They did, and everybody loved him. I mean, everybody in the church, everybody in my family. My therapist at the time tried to get my parents to keep me away from him, But at the same time, she didn't report it or anything like that. She just tried to discourage me from being there.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. Let me take it back again real quick. So you said a lot of people in your family and people in the church and stuff like that were sexually abusing you. Why you? I mean, did you ever find out why?
I still to this day question that. It's hard to not think that there's something wrong with you when you've had at least more than one person to do it. But the only thing I've come up with through therapy and places like that is just, I mean, I think that once you've been through that, I think they can kind of tell. And those people, they know how to groom you. They know how to keep you quiet. They know, I think they can pick up on it somehow when someone else has already done that. I don't know, but that's a dilemma that, like, I still go through and still blame myself so much for a lot of the things that happened.
All right, so pretty much you grew up in a what you call abusive and I don't know if it was loving or unloving, but a family that didn't really support you, like a disturbed type of atmosphere growing up.
Yeah, it was, and there was a period of time where me and my dad, I went through a lot of physical, emotional abuse with him because there was a time when we did not get along. I was a daddy's girl when I was younger, but when I got a little bit older, like one time I was removed from my home because they considered it a dangerous place, a dangerous situation. So I stayed in a group home for a little while, and then like at another time I lived with some relatives for a while, and then one time when me and my dad couldn't get along, he kicked me out, so I lived with a friend from school. But it was really up and down. It was really crazy, and with my mom being an alcoholic on top of it, it was really, a lot of the times me and my daddy, we were taking care of her. She would run away from home. She would do crazy things, and we would have to go and find her, go get her. I mean, it was like taking care of a child sometimes. So it was, a lot of turmoil growing up.
All right, so the guy, you say he was 27, you were 12. What was life like with him?
Yes. He about drove me crazy. When I ended up in the mental hospital, it was partially the other things that had affected me going on in my family, but it was partially him because he would come around and basically have sex with me and promise me this big elaborate wedding and this wonderful future and all these things, and then he would disappear for a month at a time, sometimes even a year at a time, and then pop back up and do the same thing. And I mean, like, it was wearing on me, and I would sit around home doing nothing but waiting to see him coming down the dirt road or something like that. And it really took its toll on me.
Okay. So with this guy, what was his race, if you don't mind me asking?
He's Native American.
Okay. And so
my church that I went to was pretty much all Lumbees. Go ahead.
Your church was what?
Pretty much all Lumbee.
Okay. So you dated this man for how long?
Off and on until 19 when I got locked up.
Okay. So
I dated other men and women in between.
Okay. So what type of lifestyle did you guys have together that led you up to the offense that you got charged for?
Pretty much our relationship together revolved around the church. That's where we always were. he was a gospel singer in the church. The very first time when I met him, actually, he was my Sunday school teacher. And when I saw him singing with a gospel group and things like that, I mean, like, I just fell for him. It's not that he was the most attractive person in the world, but he could sing, and he dressed so nice. And I don't know, I just was attracted to him immediately. And none of the church people had a problem with us being together because he was like everybody's baby there. And I was more mature for my age, so they didn't really see a problem with it.
So the age was at 12 and he was 27, correct?
Correct.
So what led up to the crime? What happened?
Well, it would be a combination of his money problems and his family problems. He showed up one time when we had been away from each other for a long time and was talking about doing, like, okay, this evangelist at the church had put in his head that God blesses you through things like insurance policies and things like that. And since he was having a lot of financial problems, and he had problems with raising his nephew because his brother wouldn't take custody of, well, he wouldn't take his nephew back, and he wouldn't give up custody to Robbie, that's my co-defendant, because he wanted to use him basically just as a tax write-off, and that was it. So it left him stuck with being in a position of raising his nephew without really having the means that he needed it. So this woman that was a visiting evangelist at our church kind of put the idea in his head, but I don't know if she realized to what extent he would take that. So that's when he came up with the idea of either killing his brother or his nephew.
All right, so when he came up with the idea, what happened once he came up with the idea?
Well, at first, really for a long time, I didn't take him serious because if you knew him at all, you knew he was full of a bunch of bull crap, basically. I mean, he always talked all these big, glorious plans that were never going to happen, and he always had these big ideas that were just never going to come to place. And in the beginning, he really was more focused on his brother anyway, just getting his brother out of the way. And I let him go along talking about it, whatever, but one night we had a really good night at church, and I could feel the power of the Holy Spirit that night in a way that I never could before. And I told him after church, I said, I don't want to hear anything else about this because it's crazy. And he was like, okay. I said, I don't want to lose what God's given me. And he was like, okay, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Well, he didn't for about a week or so, and then he went back to talking about it. But we ended up breaking up, and it was like a year later when we got back together. And at that time, he had told me he had already taken out the insurance policies on his brother and his nephew. But he lied to me. He told me that the insurance man gave him the papers to fill out, and he took them to his brother and had his brother sign them. But in reality, at the end, when everything was said and done, the family ended up winning a lawsuit against the insurance company because my co-defendant really didn't have his brother sign it. He forged his signature himself. But he was supposed to have done that in the presence of the insurance man and didn't do it, so therefore the insurance company was held accountable. But really, that's when everything started getting set into motion.
Wow. So, sounds like he's pretty upset about that.
Yeah. It's, looking back to this day, it's
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Vera, is it possible you can call me right back so we can continue?
I can, not a problem at all.
All right, so remember where you left off, and we're going to continue, and I'll wait for you to call me back.
Okay.
Okay.
We will do that.
Okay.
Do you want
Assistance, collection, or complaint procedures, or to... Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hi, I'm back.
Hey, how you doing? All right, so
I'm
pick up
good.
where you left off.
Okay, so in his craziness, at this time, he had wanted basically to go and kill his brother since he had the insurance policies. And like I said, I know it may sound crazy to your average person, but I never took him serious. Nothing was ever real with him. He even tried to get one of my girlfriends to go along and to commit the murder, as he said. And she was okay with it for a minute, and then she backed out of it because she thought he was dangerous and that he was going to try to kill one of us in the process, which she wasn't so far off, I don't think, because after I got locked up, I found out that he had tried to take out a $100,000 policy on me as well, and he had went through Social Security trying to have my name changed and all kinds of things that I didn't know about that he had done. So I don't know what he had in his head, really. I just know, looking back now, that he was just crazy, I think. I mean, he had some mental problems. But you want me to go ahead on with what actually happened? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Well, like I said, we didn't take him serious, but along the way, he ended up recruiting a friend of mine that lived down the road from me. And at the time, I was 19, and my friend was 17. And basically, he made up a lie to my friend and told him that some people were talking junk about me hanging around with black people all the time and things like that, and that we needed to go and kill this guy named Pat, which was his brother. And anyway, moral of the story, it was too difficult for him to get his brother, he felt like. So it ended up, it was going to be his nephew. And there was a insurance policy on his grandmother as well. And he wanted it to look, go ahead.
Hello?
Oh, I'm here.
No, I didn't say anything.
So he wanted it to look, I'm sorry?
No, I didn't say anything. Keep going.
Okay. Well, he decided he wanted it to look like it was a break-in, basically, and like to tie his grandmother up and kill his nephew is really what he wanted. Now, mind you, this is the boy that he's raised since he was a baby, and he didn't seem to have any problems with it. I didn't ever take him serious that it would even happen until the night that it did happen, and I just don't understand to this day because his nephew, he called me Mama, just like he would him. He would call him Daddy sometimes. And, I mean, I was picking out a home with a room for him. So it doesn't make sense to me in my mind how I thought that I was going to have a home and a room for his nephew to live with us, and yet here he is talking about killing him. But that night, my co-defendant and I, we went and we waited, and my younger co-defendant, and Robbie met us along the road by his house, and he told us what to do. He set everything up in the house. He had the heater on in one room, the air conditioner on in another room. He wanted it to look like the house was broken into and that something just went wrong. The people woke up and something went wrong, and maybe the person panicked and killed them. So we went in, and we had took gasoline into the house and poured it everywhere. And since he wanted it to look like a break-in or whatever, he had bought a knife at a yard sale like a couple of days before, and he had told me that I had better not come back unless I used it. And so I had a knife, and my younger co-defendant had one. And after we had poured the gas everywhere, I had covered up his nephew's eyes, basically, because I didn't want him to see it was me. And while I had done that, my younger co-defendant, his grandmother woke up, and he panicked, and he started to stab her. I wasn't sure at the time if I had stabbed his nephew or not, but I know according to the autopsy reports, I didn't. There's a lot of things that I can't remember because I have a dissociative disorder is one of my diagnoses, and I tend to block out little things here and there. So there's little pieces I can't remember and that I always question. But I go by the court reports when I do question those things. But anyway, so that's what happened, and we went out of the room, and we went back, and he went to go get a lighter, and I threw the fire into the room, and we left. I never saw them die or anything like that, so it was hard for me to believe that they were dead. Like, when I first got locked up, for a long time, my family and people that came to see me, they were like, you know, you act like you're going home tomorrow, like none of this is real. And like, I mean, to me it wasn't real. Even later on, when my lawyers had the opportunity to go back to the crime scene, I made myself go back because I thought, well, this will make it be real. But it still didn't really until the past few years with a lady that was a chaplain at Noose and my therapist that I was seeing there. I was able to walk through it, literally go back and walk through this thing and actually feel the emotions and see it for what it was. And it's only since then that I've really been able to see that this really was a real thing. Like, I mean, I knew it logically, but inside of me it just didn't feel that way. And I've been able to, you know, sort of connect all the pieces of me with what happened now.
So what were you charged for?
I was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, arson, and in the beginning, breaking and entering, but they dropped that charge because he set everything up in the house for us to go do it. So they let that go.
How much time did they give both of you?
Me and my younger co-defendant, his name was Mike, we both got 2 life sentences. And my older one, he is on death row.
So let's take it back real quick. So who did you kill?
Well, technically, it took me a lot of years to face the truth, but technically I killed both of them because I'm the one who threw the fire in the room. And when I first got arrested, I couldn't understand that because I kept saying to the officers, how can you keep putting charges on me? How can you say that I killed these people when I didn't kill them? I thought really that my co-defendant did it, but it was the fire that actually killed them. So all that blame lays on me.
So the co-defendant is the guy you were dating, correct?
The older one, but the one that was in the house with me was the younger one. I never dated him. I didn't know he had a crush on me, but no, I never dated that one.
So did you guys stab the people, or just the fire was the thing that killed them?
The grandmother was stabbed. She was stabbed repeatedly. And according to the autopsy reports, the nephew never was. I had a lot of trouble remembering because I know I had the knife with me when I was over where he was, but according to the autopsy reports, he wasn't. So I guess, and it sounds crazy, but that gave me a little bit of relief.
So your co-defendant is the one that did the stabbing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the fire started. Did they burn in the house, or did they die from smoke, inhalation, or whatever?
The smoke inhalation did get them, but they burned up in the fire, and yeah, it was pretty bad.
So what did you do once, the fire was going, stuff like that? Did you run? Did you hide? Did you turn yourself in? What did you do?
Well, we got in the car and we sped away. I remember looking back and seeing the smoke come from the house. At that time, my younger co-defendant, we left and we changed clothes, and we went to his house and disposed of like the knife and the clothes that we had on, that kind of thing. And he wanted me to take him to somebody's house to where he could go and get some weed. And so I took him to that person's house, and then I came home and pretended as though I had been at work all night. I was a CNA working at a nursing home close by. So my parents thought I had been at work and I was just coming in. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't have a phone at the time. So that's when a neighbor came over and said that my job had called, and that my then boyfriend, Robbie, had called and said there was a fire and that he needed me to come to the house.
So, how long after the fire and the crime, how long was it after you guys got caught?
Basically the next night. It was morning then, and we spent the day with relatives and the neighbors across the street while everything was going on. I remember somebody gave us something to calm us down, some kind of pills. I don't know what they were, but I mean, I've never had any kind of stuff like that. So whatever it was, it knocked me out. I actually fell asleep on these people's floor, and when I woke up, it was my preacher's daughter waking me up and asking me if I wanted to go with her to the police station because they had already questioned my co-defendant at the fire station. And they took him downtown to the police station to question him further there. So she asked me if I wanted to go with her to be there for him, and at this time nobody knew what really had happened. I went with her, and then that's when they came out and asked me if they could talk to me. And they said that my boyfriend had implicated me in it, but they didn't really know what to believe with him, so they asked could they talk to me. And they were like, basically, you can tell us the truth or we can gather the evidence and come back and get you. And I just broke down pretty much and told them everything.
But how did they know that you guys started the fire?
They said, the investigators told me that they didn't know that I had anything to do with it, but they pretty much knew from his demeanor the whole while that Robbie had something to do with it from the very beginning. Mm. It was just the way he acted and carried on.
Okay, so did you go to trial or did you take a plea?
No, we went into trial, and they didn't offer any pleas or anything like that. And really, I thought the whole while, I don't care.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I thought, I don't care if they give me a death penalty or life, there's no difference. But when it came down to 11-1 trying to give me a death penalty, then I cared. Mm-hmm. And I can say, thank God, the only little black lady on my jury, she's the one that held out for me. Mm-hmm. And she refused no matter how much they bothered her.
So, Vera, is it possible you can call me back one more time?
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Yes, I'll call right back.
All right, just so we can finish up the story, okay?
Okay, you're good. That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Recorded for customer assistance, collection, complaint. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hi.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right, so continue where you left off.
Okay, so where was I? I forgot that quick.
I think you were talking about the black lady that held out for you in court.
Oh, yes. I even wrote to tell that lady thank you. Of course, I didn't get a response, but she was, that I can recall, I think she was the only black lady on my jury. And, you know, we're talking about in Rednecksville in Harnett County. I think we didn't stand a chance with a black, a white, and a Lumbee co-defendant, but even when they were doing jury selection, it was crazy because they wouldn't allow this black man to be on my jury because his daughter had been in jail with me, and she just thought I was the sweetest thing. But yet they would allow a family member of my victims and a lady who had a son and grandson-in-law who were working with the fire department and were supposed to be state witnesses. That lady was allowed to be on my jury, but this black man couldn't be on my jury because his daughter had been in jail with me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like insane, but like that's the good old boys, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it had come down to 11-1, and she held out for me, and so I partially owe that woman my life, I guess.
So, what I'm gathering, the purpose of the crime was to kill the people to collect insurance money. Yes,
the insurance money basically to him. What he promised me is we were going to get married and have this big elaborate wedding, all this kind of stuff, and it would take care of all of his problems that he had with money. And it would also take care of the family problems he had with being able to not get custody of his nephew. So for him, that was his all-around answer, I guess you could say.
And that's a crazy way to be thinking, you know. At the expense of other people's lives,
it is.
You can live a better life.
It is, but if you knew, like, his mind was really twisted, and ever since I was a child, basically, I would follow him to the moon and back, and I know, that's not an excuse because I'm responsible for what I did. I understand that. But since I was a child, my world revolved around him, and his mind was really warped. I can tell you one time before this happened, he had the insurance policies in a manila envelope and took them in front of the church to be anointed and prayed over for a financial blessing. This is the kind of crap that he had in his head. It was just so twisted. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So this guy grew up in the church.
Yes.
He claimed that he loved the Lord, and
right.
Was he Christian? What was he? Baptist? What was he? Protestant?
He was just a big phony, basically.
Okay, big phony in the church. And you see, God don't like uglies. You see what happened?
Do what now?
God doesn't like ugly at all.
No.
There's no way in the world that was going to happen when you supposed to be a God-fearing man, and you're going to go around and you're going to try to kill people for insurance money and think everything is going to be all right. That's a real twisted mentality right there. Sorry. So.
Yeah, his mind was really twisted, and I guess mine was too, because I never took him serious. I never really thought it would actually happen, and then, boom, that night it did happen. I mean, all the time he was just full of crap until then. So, yeah.
So, since you've been incarcerated, what have you been doing while you've been away? How long have you been locked up anyway?
24 years. I came to prison 19 years old, and I'm 43 now.
Okay. And what have you been doing for 24 years in prison outside of just doing time? Any educational stuff? Anything like that?
Yes. I've taken pretty much every class there is to take as far as they will allow you to do college, because if you're a lifer, they don't like you to actually get your AA and BA stuff in here, because they feel like they should leave that for the people that don't have that much time. But, like, I've gone through cosmetology school, pretty much computer school. I've done pretty much everything there is to do. I've had just about every kind of job you can possibly have. I'm currently a chaplain's clerk right now, and I love that job. I've been in 5 different prisons so far. But I've managed to stay pretty busy. It's been hard. It's been very hard. In the beginning, I spent a lot of time in mental health and lockup. But my last years, I've settled down. I've gotten myself together.
So you don't have no release date, correct?
No. But the part of the law I fall up under, I come up for review when I've done 25 years, so that would be in 22.
You come up for what? What is that?
There's a review that you come up for, and basically they can pretty much decide either we're going to let you out or we're not, and you're going to come up for review again in 2 years.
Okay. So there's a chance that you might be able to get another shot at coming home and being a productive person in society.
Yes, I'm hoping that. I'm hoping that somewhere along the way that someone will see that my life is totally different than when I first came to prison.
Do you blame your upbringing for some of the for the reason why you participated in such a crime?
Well, that's kind of two-sided. On one hand, yes. On the other hand, I completely take responsibility for what I did, because, I'm the one that chose to go along. He made his threats to me, but he didn't have a gun to my head. I was stupid enough that I went along with him. But on the other hand, I think that all of the abuse and things that I went through in my childhood made me perfect for his grooming that he did, because really he was just another abuser in my life. And that role that we had didn't change when I grew up. It was still the same. I hate to say he had control of me, but to an extent he did. So I'd say it's a little of both.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to say to the family of the victims before you get off the show?
I would. I know that it's a lot to ask, but I think I've spent every day that I've been locked up praying that somehow that they forgive me. There was one lady in particular, but I would say the children of his grandmother, the most of all, are the ones that I really sought forgiveness from. His nephew's parents, I hope that one day they can forgive me too. I don't understand why they weren't raising him themselves, and they left him in the hands of a monster, basically. But I hope every day, and I pray every day that they can find it in their hearts to forgive me for what I did.
Okay. So I want to thank you for coming on my show and telling your side of the story, which is very important. You know, a lot of times people read stuff, and you know, when you read stuff, they don't focus on your story, your words. They focus on the event that happened, and it's always good to show people, you know, or people to hear that, you know, how you were raised. A lot of people don't know how you were raised and stuff like that, and they don't know how you changed in the woman you are today, you know. So that's why it's good to do these interviews so people can see, you know, that, you know, you've grown, you've changed, you're sorry for it, and you want to do better with the rest of your life, you know.
Yes. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity because, like you said, people read things, they see things, but they don't know the reasoning behind things. Sometimes there's more of a story to it, you know?
Yes.
It's nice to be able to talk for the first time and tell some of my side of the things.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on my show once again. And can you give me a call on Tuesday so we can do a recap of what we talked about, and I can talk to you about some other stuff?
I sure will. That would be wonderful.
Yes. So, Vera, thank you for coming on the show. I look forward to hearing from you on Tuesday, and you have a good day.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you Tuesday.